Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video today, I want to talk a bit about what an RRSP account is and why you would open one. Both my husband and I have our RRSP account, which helped us to not only save for retirement, but also towards the down payment of our first home. So now let's start with what an RRSP is, what the benefits are of having an RRSP account, how to open an RRSP account, and also how much money you can put into it. Because yes, there is a limit as to how much money you can put into that account. And before we dive into all of that, just a big disclaimer up front that I am not a financial advisor. I am just sharing my own experience and knowledge. Everything that I say can be found on the web. So let's start. Now, what is an RRSP? RRSP stands for Registered Retirement Savings Plan. So in Canada, there are actually many different savings and pension plans, so not just the RRSP. On the Canada.ca website, you can see that there's the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, so the RRSP, or the TFSA, the Tax-Free Savings Account. There's a Registered Education Savings Plan, and there's a disability savings plan, and so on. RRSP is a retirement savings plan that you establish with an issuer that the CRA registers and to which you or your spouse or common law partner contribute. Any income you earn in the RRSP is usually exempt as long as the funds remain in the plan. You generally have to pay tax when you receive payments from the plan. So now let's break this down. Any income that you earn in the RRSP is usually exempt. Okay, exempt from what? Exempt from taxes, which is one of the greatest benefits of having an RRSP account. And to explain that, here's a very simple example. Let's say that regardless of your income, you put $10,000 in your RRSP. When you put that money in your RRSP, there is no tax on that $10,000. Yeah, isn't that great? And let's say now that this $10,000 grows by 20% to, let's say, $12,000 in just 2 years. As long as this money stays in your RRSP account and you do not withdraw the money, this money is not taxed. And the great thing, guys, also that if you earn any dividends from the money that you have in your RRSP, that is also not taxed as long as the money is in the RRSP. Now let's go to the last very important point here, which is you generally have to pay tax when you receive payments from the plan. So this basically means that whenever you withdraw money from your RRSP, that amount will be taxed. Now let's go on and talk about investments in your RRSP. And this is the really exciting part, I think. So how can you actually earn any income in your RRSP? A very important concept to understand about the RRSP is that an RRSP is not an investment per se, but rather you can see it like a pot in which you can put money and to which certain rules apply or certain benefits apply. For example, the ability to defer taxes. Every time you put in money, you can invest that money in an investment. The most popular or well-known ones are, of course, deposits, securities, investment funds, debt obligations, and so on. So moving on, when you have what is called self-directed RRSP, so an RRSP that you control yourself, you can make the investment decisions yourself. So when you open your RRSP account with a bank, usually you have the option to select a self-directed RRSP. So that is also what I have. We invested part of our money or most of our money in ETFs, some into shares, and a little bit into bonds. So let's say that you have a bunch of shares in your RRSP. What happens if the value of your shares grow over time? As I mentioned earlier, as long as you keep your money in the RRSP and you do not sell your shares, you do not take the money out of your RRSP, then that growth is not taxed. And also, as you know, there are many shares that offer dividends on a yearly or even on a quarterly basis. So let's say you have dividend A and it pays you $15 every quarter. As long as you do not withdraw those $15, you let it just stay rest or you reinvest it into your RRSP account, then that money is also not taxed. So just in case any of you are still wondering how much you can earn from an RRSP, then the answer is it really depends on how well, let's say, you manage your investments, what you invest your money into, how much it grows, whether it pays dividends or not. If you just put your money into an RSP and don't invest it into anything, then there will be no income and no growth. But even if you do not invest your money and you just leave it there in your RSP, there are still some benefits that you can enjoy. And that brings me to the next point, benefits of opening an RSP account. And I found it very well summarized in this article here, 5 benefits of RRSP contributions. And benefit number 1 is that RRSPs are tax-sheltered investments. An RSP is a good choice because the interest you earn is tax sheltered as long as it stays invested in the plan. This is one of the most powerful benefits of RSPs when it comes to achieving your future goals. So this is what I explained to you earlier. You won't pay tax on your RSP earnings until you withdraw money from your account. If you wait until retirement to withdraw your money, you'll likely be in a lower tax bracket and won't pay as much tax on your RSP earnings. So as you guys know, here in Canada, the percentage of taxes that you pay will depend on your income. So let's just say that now, as a relatively younger person, your income is higher, above 100,000, and you are taxed at, let's say, 28%. So many people, although not all, will have a higher income in their 40s and 50s, and with that also fall into a higher tax bracket. So the percentage tax that they need to pay on their income will be higher than compared to when they're, let's say, in their 70s, unless they are still working or have a business, right? But if they're retired, then they'll have a smaller income. Perhaps they'll still have some income from a smaller side hustle, or maybe from renting out a room in their house or whatever. But in general, they would have a lower income, and that puts them in a lower tax bracket. And that is why when they hold off withdrawing their money from the RSP and wait until they reach that retirement age, if then they withdraw their money, that money will be subject to a lower tax rate. Now let's go on to benefit number 2. The second benefit of having an RSP is that you can use your RSP contributions for a tax break, which simply means that you save on taxes and with that have more disposable income. Not only does contributing to your RSP help you prepare for your financial future, but you'll also get to take advantage of tax breaks. The CRA, or the Canada Revenue Agency, allows you to deduct RSP contributions from your income, lowering your overall taxable income. This is key. And now let's look at that number example. So here on TurboTax is a great number example. Let's look at an example with Manal's situation. Manal has an RSP deduction limit of $14,400 and earns $80,000 per year, which puts him in the federal tax bracket of 20.5%. So now let's just ignore this part here. And further, it says he can contribute $14,400 to his RSP and fully deduct the contributions when he files his taxes this year, saving him $2,952 in taxes. So where did this almost $3,000 come from? Take the $14,400, so the amount that he can deduct, and multiply it by 20.5%, and that gives you the savings of $2,952 in federal taxes, which is really great news because that means he has this amount more, almost $3,000 more in disposable income, which he can use to reinvest into his RSP again. And so the cycle continues. So here, guys, you can see that in most cases, although not all cases, you could be saving a lot of money just by putting your money into an RSP. And if you didn't do that, you would just be leaving a ton of money on the table each year. Benefit number 3 is that you can set up a spousal or common law partner RSP. Take advantage of this program if one partner earns significantly more than the other. When the higher income partner contributes to a lower income partner's RSP, the spouse who contributes can take advantage of the income tax deduction. Now moving on to benefit number 4, which is use your RSP for a down payment on your first home or for education. And this is what we did, by the way. We used our RSPs for our home down payment. If you and your spouse are first-time home buyers, you can use the home buyers plan to withdraw up to $35,000 from your RSP to use as a down payment, but note that you will have to repay the money. So having an RSP really helped my husband and I to save up for our down payment. It helped us to become more disciplined because we had a dedicated place to save our money in for our down payment. But note that now there's another account that may or may not be more suitable for you, which is the first time home savings account. Sorry, it's the first home savings account. And I'm not going to cover this in this video, but one of the big differences is that for the FHSA, you do not need to repay the money. Whereas with the RSP, when you withdraw that money, let's say $35,000, you will need to repay it and put it back into that account, I think, over the course of 10 years. But at that time, last year, the FHSA was not available yet, and that is why we solely relied on our RSP for our down payment. But if you are planning to buy a home this year and onwards, then I would definitely recommend you to also check out the FHSA and see which one works better for you. Okay, reason number 5 why you would open an RSP account is to enjoy regular payments during your retirement. When you retire, you can convert your RSP into one of few different fund options and start withdrawing your money as income. But note that once you start withdrawing money from your RSP account, that money will be subject to taxes. And that really gives you peace of mind knowing that you saved up money for your retirement and that later on at one point in time, you can turn that into a payment plan where it pays you a certain amount of money each month. So those were some of the basic reasons why someone would open an RSP account. And yes, there are some isolated cases where it is not optimal to put your money into an RSP, but I won't be covering that in this video. So now that you know about the benefits, you might be thinking, I'd better open an RSP account as soon as possible. And yes, in most cases, I think that that's really a good idea. Now, your next question might be, okay, this RSP thing sounds great, but how do I actually open an RSP account? You can set up an RSP through a financial institution such as a bank, credit union, trust, or insurance company. Your financial institution will advise you on the types of RSP and the investments they contain. So most financial institutions, very likely the bank that you're banking with, will be able to open an RSP for you. So just check that with them or check it out on their online banking site. And just so you know, you can also open multiple RSP accounts with different financial institutions. I'm not saying that you should, but that you do have this option. Okay, I know that many of you watching are immigrants, are newcomers to Canada, and your question might be, if I'm not Canadian, if I'm not PR yet, can I actually open an RSP or not? And the answer is yes, as long as there are always qualifiers. And I'm going to borrow these criteria from the RBC website. Here it says most Canadians are eligible to open an RSP. To qualify, you must be a Canadian resident with a social insurance number, have earned income and filed a tax return in Canada. And that is why it's so important that when you arrive in Canada after your first year, make sure that you file your taxes, whether or not you earn any income. Open and contribute to your plan no later than December 31st of the year you turn 71. So that's basically the age limit. Now, if you're someone who catches on to opportunities really fast, now you might be thinking, well, if I can save or defer taxes that way, well, let's just put $50,000 into my RSP so I can save taxes on that amount. But no, unfortunately, you cannot do that. There are limits as to how much you can deduct. So let's briefly talk about RSP deduction limits. So an RSP deduction limit is the maximum amount of money you can contribute to your RSP and claim as a tax deduction on your income tax return. And if you're asking, how do I know what this number is, then you can find that on your notice of assessment or in your MyCRA account online. And that is why previously I told you it's very important that you file your taxes, because after you file your taxes, you will get what is called an NOA or a notice of assessment, like a proof that you have filed your taxes. And on that sheet, you will find the number that you will be allowed to deduct and put into your RSP. So if you want a ballpark on what that limit might be, let's scroll down further here. The RSP deduction limit is the lesser of 18% of your income from the previous year or the annual limit set by the CRA, up to a maximum of $30,780 for tax year 2022, but we'll check what the number is for 2023 in a second. So let's just assume that your income is $100,000. So one number would be 18% of $100,000, which is $18,000. So you would compare that number, $18,000, to the annual limit. So for 2023, the RRSP deduction limit is $30,780. That means the lesser is $18,000. So that means that that will be the maximum that you can deduct. But note one very important thing is that you cannot exceed your RRSP deduction limit. So let's say your deduction limit is $18,000. You cannot go over that. If you contribute more than that $18,000, then that will be subject to a penalty of 1% per month. Although it seems that there is some wiggle room up to $2,000 in case you accidentally contribute more than you're supposed to. As I said earlier, having an RSP really helped me to be disciplined, saving towards retirement and also for other goals, because the money is in a separate account. And at the same time, I also know that I'm enjoying a lot of tax benefits, and that increases my discipline even further. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, and also let me know what other videos you would like me to make in the future. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.